Martin from the Philippines. We're here in Real Talk Lifeline. So we are live and we're going to be doing a best lessons video. Let's get to it. This one's going to be about Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So this is part of my Harv Eker Quantum Leap program. However, you could take it on its own, just as a course, and super highly experiential. Let's get to it. People watching the live or the replay, feel free to comment down below. If there are lessons that hit you, feel free to share your own lessons and experiences as well so I can learn from you and it might help someone else too. So let's get to it. Quick intro. What is this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp? It's part of my Quantum Leap program. So I took a seminar back in 2018 called the Millionaire Mind Intensive. And then that was on money mindset, Harv Eker. That's his signature program. And then one of the seminars that you could also take on the next level was called Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So you could take the course a la carte, meaning you don't have to take the whole Quantum Leap program. That's 5 seminars over the course of a year. Enlightened Warrior Training Camp is around 5 days. So like 4.5, around 5 days. And then it cost 168,300 pesos that time. So I think that's a little more than 3,000 US dollars, I believe. Plus, when you sign up for that camp, you have to pay a separate food and accommodation because it's in this special resort in Malaysia back then when I took it. So I signed up in 2018. I took it in October 2019, around that time. So food and accommodation, it will, cover your 5 days, your meals, the resort that you're in. So let's get to it. This is a best lessons video. Who's this for? If you're on the fence and you don't know, like you took the Millionaire Mind Intensive, should I take this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp? This is for you. 2, if you're just open-minded and you want to learn, you want to get, you just want to upgrade to the next level lessons, you're in for a ride. After this video, I'll also work on the best lessons, the quick notes with timestamps, so you can just skip to the best lessons you want. So let's get to it. Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. Let's begin. So this was at the Swiss Garden Beach Resort, Damai Laut in Malaysia. And then this was from September 29 to October 3, 2019, back when I took it. Just to get an idea, the people attending this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp were coming from different countries. So there were 360 attendees all in all. Bulk of them came from Vietnam, like around 160 of them. Here in the Philippines, we were about 60. So a big group also among the whole total. There were people from Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Pakistan, Hong Kong, Myanmar, Germany, New Zealand, Australia, Brunei, France. I remember because my partner was from France in one of the activities. Italy, India, Russia, and then China. So, international group. So, next, the lead trainer for this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp was Robert Raymond Riopel. And this guy is one of my favorite lead trainers among the 5 seminars I took in my Quantum Leap program. He's Canadian and he has this, I really like his vibe, his heart. He's very like heart. Like you'll feel his heart. At the same time, he can also be very firm and really emphasize what needs to be done, right? Especially for this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. There are modes where you have to do warrior mode, right? Like you have to do whatever it takes. So I'll just be highlighting the best lessons again, just so for the sake of time. I'm not here to spoil whatever you're going to go through. I feel it's near impossible to do that because this is a highly experiential camp, and I can't really I can't spoil that for you unless you experience it for yourself. So, best lessons. Why did I do it? Why did I go there? It was really to build my self esteem, my self worth. And what I wanted to release were useless fears that were holding me back. So, this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp is perfect for that. So, the first best lesson that hit me was this word that they use there. So, they use this word, aho. It's North American Indian, like Lakota tribe. So they say, aho, like that. What does that mean? It means I honor your truth. So that's the first best lesson I love because saying that is very powerful. Even though we may not agree, even though that you may have a different belief or feel about it differently, I still have the ability to say, I honor your truth. It is true for you, and I will also honor my own truth, right? So I could have that appreciation and respect for both. So another lesson about Enlightened Warrior Camp in hindsight, because this is 2023 now, I'm reviewing my 2019 journal, my notes, is what we do is actually practice being more present in the moment, also trusting more. So why do we do that? We actually get more out of life when we practice being present. So what does that mean? People watching the live right now or even the replay, I am practicing that right now. So right now I'm thinking, okay, I thought the window was open, it was distracting me like that. That is not being present. Being present is letting it go, just being here fully. I'm here with you guys right now, and I'm just doing this. I'm not putting it off. I'm just right here, right now with you, going through this. So, ironically, that helps us appreciate life more. Why? Our mind isn't thinking ahead in the future. We can't appreciate this moment right now, or the mind isn't stuck in the past, not being able to appreciate the moment right now. So, Enlightened Warrior Training Camp will really put you in situations that will help you practice doing that more. So, next best lesson here that I put, I think I might share more on this maybe in a bit later. It's called the false sense or the ego mind. This is what separates us. So, there's a difference between our false self versus our true self, right? False self or true self, our lower self and our higher self. So our ego self, so like the survival, versus like that higher or greater side of us. So I'll share more on that in a bit later. And we are all connected. We are all one energy, one love, whatever you want to call it, and you'll go through it in these experiences. So one tip also here is I'm really trying to go through this as fast as I can. These best lessons really hit me hard, and each one of them was profound. If you really test it yourself, you could go deep. I want you to be here for you, even right now in this live. That's what I did in my Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So don't be here for someone else. Why? You won't be able to appreciate it, and it won't be true or authentic to you. Be here for you. What do you need to get right now from this? What do you need to learn? What do I need to do to become the best version of me? If not, we get divided or distracted, right? Mixed signals. So next best lesson. Okay, just gonna read the stuff that really that I marked here. By the way, as I go through this, this is part of like the rules when you go through these seminars. Number one is don't believe a word I say, meaning whatever I say, test it. This is based on my experience and the experience of other people, hundreds, thousands of other people. And it could be true for me, it could be true for them. But test it yourself to see if it's true for you. If it is not, then feel free to let it go. It's okay. Next, participate. So why? Again, you can do it in the live or the replay. So people watching, you can comment down below. You can react. Again, like respond or participate. Why? What I hear, I forget. I don't remember it. Now, what I see, this is why I love doing video or live. I remember more. But what I do, I understand. So when I actually reply or when I test it myself, then I understand it on a deeper level. And I don't forget it too. So next best lesson. Here in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, they are long days. Meaning you wake up early in the morning around 6 a.m. So I'm gonna check my notes here. I believe it's like 6:25 a.m. call time, and then you can end anywhere from 11 p.m. to midnight. So they are real long, intense days. Why? Here we will test you. So there will be things that will be done to intentionally stretch you, maybe piss you off, or it could take you out. However, it will also show you a way on how to not be stopped, on how to handle that. So that's what Enlightened Warrior Training Camp is about. So it will show you what holds you back and like what you can do to overcome that. If you're willing to play, this can be one of the greatest experiences of your life. So next best lesson, what are the 3 most dangerous words? If you can guess anyone, type in the comment below. Maybe you already took the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. You could write it down. 3 most dangerous words. I know that. So why? Why is that? Why are the most three most dangerous words? When we say I know that, our mind shuts off. So we're not in learning mode. We're not open. There is already a judgment that's close. It doesn't allow us to grow, right? It's as simple as that. So if I already say I know that, I'm not gonna listen, right? So they're dangerous because it's like there's a saying, we're either growing or we're dying. So I know that those are the words of a dying person. Now, in contrast, there are 4 powerful words. If you could guess, type in the comments down below, people watching the live or the replay, what are the 4 powerful words? So here they are. Thank you for sharing. So why are they powerful? Thank you for sharing. They're coming from a place of openness or appreciation. And what does that do? It allows us to learn. It allows us to grow. It allows us to see a different perspective, even if it's not the same as ours. Hey, thank you for sharing. Maybe I don't agree with it, but thank you for sharing. Either way, right? So very, very powerful. That opens us up, allows us to grow. So I love this. There's a process here, super quick. I'll just go through it super quick. It's called what I feel like saying is. So I didn't even remember this until I reviewed my notes. So what's the process of this? What I feel like saying is, I'm actually gonna be doing this the entire best lessons, but super powerful if you're doing this with a friend, maybe a family member, a loved one, even a stranger. So what I feel like saying is, say whatever is in your mind, whatever is in your heart. Just share it for 1 full minute. The job of the other person is to just listen. Just listen. Then the next step is to end after 1 minute is say, and that's what I feel like saying. And then ask the other person, what do you feel like saying? So why is this so powerful? You're like, Martin, this is like a warrior camp, right? Warrior. Oh, why are you saying or sharing this stuff? Well, this is the enlightened. part of the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So it's very important because I learned after going through it, you could be a warrior, right? But then you can also be a warrior for an evil cause, right? You could be a mercenary, you could be a terrorist, you could be a someone who just plunders villages, or you know, like a killer or something like that. So the Enlightened Warrior makes sure that you're a warrior of the light, meaning a warrior who does good, right? So this what I feel like saying is super powerful. That's what I got. Super powerful process. So next, I'll just be transitioning to this, my journal notebook, because I'm going to be going through 5 days with you. So day one, let's begin, right? I just shared with you some intro, quick lessons there, best lessons. So what is an enlightened warrior? An enlightened warrior is one who conquers oneself. So what does that mean? We don't conquer other people. We conquer our own self in order to serve others. So that's the difference of an enlightened warrior versus a warrior, right? Who's just, trying to power trip over other people, right? Conquer others. So here, this is the lesson on true self versus the false self, or this is what I love. They go a little deeper, but it's still simple enough for to understand. So the false self is also known as our conditioned mind. So this is everything that was recorded in our brain, our programming, growing up 0 to 7 years old, maybe even older as we grew up. It's our personality. It's kind of like our blueprint. The ego self, meaning our survival instinct or mechanism, right? Now, this is in contrast with our true self, right? True self, higher self, like that. And the good news is we can actually replace or reprogram it to learn these higher level of programming, which is what Enlightened Warrior Training Camp is doing or does, right? So that's just a quick hint or a quick lesson on true self versus false self, or higher self versus our conditioned mind. So why is this important? Our mind is not who you are, meaning a lot of times our mind, it's natural, but it's based on survival, it's very limited. So you are greater than your mind. We can disidentify and observe on a day-to-day basis, am I just, in survival and fear and protection? Or can I step back and see, hey, what's working and what's not working? Hey, could I do this better than what happened? Maybe something I did consciously or unconsciously, right? And I love this word, choice. So people who get it, you could type in the comments below, watching the live or the replay, choice. Choice is the difference of just being on autopilot, right? In our default ego self, false self, versus our higher self, our true self, right? So we can choose to be better or to be greater than our mind. So again, this is the next best lesson. Our brain's job, right? Our default or survival, right? Is the brain's job isn't there to live in our higher self or to make us happy or to reach our greatest potential. Our brain's job is protection. So that was a really insightful learning. What is protection? It's to keep you where you are, it's to keep you safe, and it's to keep you in your comfort zone. Now, how many of you agree that when you are where you are, when you're safe, and when you're in your comfort zone, you're miserable? So if you can relate, you could type hashtag relate in the comments down below. Because when we live in protection too long, right? Long enough, that's when we start to feel this, right? Stagnant or stuck, not growing, or in these words, right, in this word, miserable also. So that's the brain's default or its job. It's protection. It's not, to grow or be in our highest potential, right? So next best lesson, there's this term quiet the mind. So what does that mean? Quiet the mind. Notice that our conditioned mind, it's so loud, meaning when we sit alone in a room, solitary confinement, quiet space, all alone, notice that our mind, it can be very loud or noisy. A lot of thoughts going on in there. So those who could relate, again, hashtag relate. Our true self, in contrast to the conditioned mind, it's actually very quiet. It's like a hum. It's like a meditation, right? So when the people who meditate reach that space, they can relate it. People who do yoga, when you're reaching a point of shavasana, like the corpse position, meaning you're just lying down quiet, eyes closed. Some do it eyes open. You're just breathing, and you're in that very relaxed meditative state. That's closer to our true self. So we tend to have more enlightened thoughts, peace, calm, equanimity, right? We tend to make better decisions actually in that space. In contrast, the conditioned mind is filled with all these programming thoughts. Usually, again, it's survival, ego based fear, and it's really noisy up there. So, quiet the mind. That's what meditation is all about. Now, meditation, by the way, is not just sitting uh, crossed legs and humming and breathing. When you go through the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, or just in real life, some of you may have experienced very intense activities and you still reach that meditative state. Personally, I experienced that when I started or learned how to ride a motorcycle in 2014. So your mind is very focused, it's an intense activity, but you reach a flow or meditative state. That's one way of quieting the mind. So people who could relate, comment down below. What are some activities you've done that help you quiet the mind? Personally, mine was riding a motorcycle. So more recently, maybe it's also through an ice bath, right? So, which is also another intense activity. So what is an activity that helps you quiet the mind? I'm curious. So you could type it down below, people watching the live or the replay. Next best lesson. Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, for people like the lead trainer Robert Riopel, others, they say it changed their life or it changed their mindset. And the lead trainer, Robert Riopel, was very passionate about it. And this is the note I put. It saves people's lives because people who were suicidal before taking Enlightened Warrior, they were not anymore after. Now, after going through it, I kind of get and see why. Because when you do an activity so intense or it feels impossible and you overcome it, it's really empowering. On the other side, if someone feels depressed, meaning they feel powerless, helpless, stuck, this will make you experience the opposite side of life, which is like when you go through it. Maybe you'll hear more of it as I go through the next best lessons. So it's amazing. Enlightened Warrior Training Camp is like connecting with they call it like the Great Spirit. So it's like your higher self. When we're stuck in our default ego self or false self, meaning it's our limited self or potential, right? Next best lesson. If you stay present and you play full on, you will get what you're looking for. So this is the key. Even as I do this live with you and for you guys, and I'm doing it for myself as well, if I can stay present and I can stay full on, meaning I'm gonna give 100% plus for you guys and myself, right? Sharing the best lessons of Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, I will get and you will get what you're looking for. It could be an aha moment. could be an epiphany. It could be a lesson that's like, hey, this is what I needed all along, right now, right? And if you want to take your life to the next level, all you gotta do is to try the way we ask you, or to live the way that we're asking you. So it's what you're getting in these best lessons. Next best lesson. Everything we do specifically for a reason. So before, again, this is me very skeptical. It's like, why are we doing this? Why do we have to do this? What are we doing? It's actually done specifically for a reason. And the reason is it's to do deep, deep work. So your old conditioning, it can't work. So let's say my old conditioning could be a negative or unsupportive habit. For example, smoking. Or this is more relatable for me, being late. So smoking, I've tried that growing up back in high school maybe, but then it wasn't really a vice or a habit for me. So being late, for example, for you, people watching the live or the replay, comment down below, what is an unsupportive habit? Maybe it's part of our old conditioning, right? Unsupportive, like a bad habit that you want to let go or overcome. So you can comment that down below. I'm curious because when we go through this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, we go through deep, deep work that will actually help us in a way that that old conditioning, those bad habits, won't work anymore, because we're going to replace them with something healthier, something better, like a good habit or an empowering habit, supportive habit. Now, there's a key here, though. People will say, why can't you just make someone, right, or force them? It has to be his decision. It has to be her decision. So that person also has to speak their truth. So I'm not here to try to change or dictate your life, right? So for example, and I love this for JB, thank you so much for sharing here in this live. Procrastination. Actually, I too could relate with you, JB, with that. And it's October 17, 2023. I was really pushing myself, being intentional to make this best lessons live, because I want to do all my best lessons, these lives, for all 5 of my Quantum Leap seminars, right? I've already done Mission to Millions. I've done Guerrilla Business Intensive. I recently did Train the Trainer last month. So I have 2 more to go. And now I'm doing this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So I'll relate it back to procrastination, what JB was sharing. It took me a lot of effort to finally do this, the 4th one out of 5, right? I have 1 more to go. So on all those dead time or procrastination moments, I wasn't doing it, right? So there is a way to overcome it, right? But the key is it has to be your decision or my decision. Otherwise, it will not work. Now, here's the good news. If they ask for support, like someone, reaches out, like JB just shared, right? Then give it to them. Give them the support, which is what I love about seminars like these. If you're willing to ask for help, there are some people out there who will help you. Maybe you feel like no one will help, a lot of people won't help. That's also true. But, if you're crazy enough like me, some person, at least one, will find you and help you. So another tip is to remove the temptation. Put it in the trash can. Meaning, let's say it's not procrastination, let's say it's smoking. Put the cigarettes in the trash can. Remove the temptation. If you're trying to lose weight, be healthy, then don't buy cake. Don't put it in the the refrigerator, right? So remove the temptation. Because it will make it easier for you to say, I choose this. And then it will work. So another best lesson that hit me was this. It's called tunnel vision versus total vision. So what's the difference of that? Tunnel vision is, so let's say you see right behind me, sorry, this one. That's my dream board. So right behind me. So let's say tunnel vision, I'm like this. There we go. All I can see is just this. And right next to me, over here, I can't see that. And maybe that dream board, that vision board, could have been the answer, right? So total vision is, I'm gonna remove this, right? Which is my fixed or limited way of seeing or thinking. Total vision, I can see everything. This is why I also do this live, the best lessons. JV, who shared, helped me see, hey, other people are also going through something in life. It's not just me. It's not just depression. It's not just anxiety or what I'm feeling stuck with in life right now. So I can see things better, totally. A good or a best lesson that hit me here too is this line: ask them questions, but don't get attached. So I love that line. Ask them questions, but don't get attached. So getting attached is like the equivalent of tunnel vision. And I mean this in a unsupportive or like a bad way. Total vision is when we're not attached to it. It allows us to see everything, the perspectives of other people, or the answer that could have just been next to us. So there's another best lesson on this page. After Enlightened Warrior, some relationships split up. They're not meant to be. Now, this is not good, this is not bad, but it happens if you're willing to step into your true power. So what does that mean? When we live in our authentic self, right? We're living our truth. Some some relationships are not meant to be. Sometimes it's family, sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's a loved one. Sometimes it could be me even. Like, hey, maybe I'm not good for you or supportive or the right person for you right now. I'm working on myself right now. This is why I'm doing this. So it helped me understand things also, to not resist it, to not get angry about it, just to have more peace. So this is a cool lesson I learned. Some people may doubt that they're saying, "Oh, Martin, Enlightened Warrior Training Camp." So that's you. You're a warrior. Everyone watching this live right now, I challenge you. I say that you too are also a warrior. Why? The lesson I learned is it's actually in your genes. No matter how hard you press or try to erase it. Why? Your parent, your grandparent, your great great grandparent, and it goes on. Inherently, they were warriors. They survived. Some of them went through a war. Some of them went through multiple wars or personal ones, right? And they survived. They survived enough to pass down their genes to your grandparent, to your parent, to you. So it's actually hard to wipe you out, right? Warrior is in your genes, actually. It's in my genes. That's one cool thing I realized. So the next step I learned is there are these things. I think it's also a book. They're called Four Archetypes: the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Or here they call it the King or the Queen, the Warrior, the Wizard, the Lover. So the warrior is an archetype, and the secret is you can actually call upon its power. Warrior is not a person necessarily. It's an archetype, meaning anyone can call upon it. Like if you want to be a warrior, you want to be a hero, whatever term you want to use. Sometimes you just remember an idol or someone you look up to, and you're like, hey, I want to be like him or her. And then as a kid, right, some people they get a cape or whatever like that. You could call upon that power. That's the secret. You could do it. I could do it. You're in the gym and you say, hey, I'm going to lift these weights like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're calling upon that warrior, that archetype, right? So that's the secret. You could actually give it a name. Um, it's an archetype, right? You could call upon the power anytime, actually. So next best lesson, day 2. So this is a lesson on learning. So again, we're going back to the enlightened part of the Enlightened Warrior. There's a secret formula to lifelong learning. So do you want to know what it is? The secret formula for lifelong learning. So just comment yes down below. Some of you might know this already. So there's a formula or like a code for this, and it's reviewing 10 minutes within 10 minutes. I'll tell it to you, Gene. Let's get to this on a secret formula for lifelong learning. I'll also explain the relevance in our life, right? Within 10 minutes, we review the lesson. Within then 24 hours, the next one, we review it again, and then for 7 consecutive days. It's like a lock, right? When we do that, within 10 minutes, 24 hours, and then 7 consecutive days, our retention goes up 80%. Now, what's the relevance of this? If you don't want to get too technical, right? You could rewind it if you want to review. Martin, it's 2023, 4 years after you did your Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. Why are you still reviewing your notes? Well, it's what I'm sharing with you. It's making myself remember again. And these are the best lessons. So its focus is intentional. I want to call upon those best lessons, the genius, or for some, it's the power that you get from it. And that's what I'm sharing with you again. So it's a secret formula to lifelong learning. Again, versus the other side. I know that procrastinating. So that's like the we're either dying mindset or this one, which is the growth mindset, right? So lifelong learning. So next best lesson related to learning and teaching, you actually teach others how to treat you. So this is going to be very apparent in the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp because there will be moments wherein not just people but life will push you around. For example, the call time is 6:25 a.m. Not a morning person for those who could relate. So you might get these thoughts, emotions like, oh, why are they doing this? Like that. Life is pushing me down. We can actually learn or teach others how to treat us. Enlightened Warrior Training Camp shows that. So if I'm in that victim or like at the at the effect, meaning I'm not the cause of my life, right? You're welcome, JB. So when I say you're at the effect, whatever happens, that's it. If I'm the cause, meaning I'm the creator of my life, 6:25 a.m., I could wake up at 5, right? So I find a way. I create a way or my life, right? So when we do that, we can actually teach others how to treat us. Now, this was very profound. There might be parts later on that you'll see how to do it. Growing up, I got bullied. I didn't know the lesson on personal boundaries. So I didn't know, like, well, how should I let others, how should I teach others how to treat me? Because I grew up extra sensitive, meaning, hey, I might offend the other person. I might be a little too direct, right? So this one was a really good lesson. I'll say another line here that hit me. These are just notes that I wrote. I love this line. I want to know if you can see beauty, even if it is not a pretty day. I love that because there are days, the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp are challenges. But sometimes when you get home, for those who could relate, sometimes you feel like, why is today so heavy? Why is today so hard? And sometimes it messes you or me up more, wherein, hey, my life isn't so bad. There are a lot of less fortunate people out there. But why? How come it still feels down, right? What I learned is if I can see beauty in that, and it's not fake, by the way. Sometimes it's real. Maybe you're going through depression. Maybe you're going through something. Maybe you're a woman who's going through postpartum. Have a batchmate who made a recent post about that after she gave birth. If you could still see beauty in that, even if it's not a pretty day, that's super powerful. And then another line here that hit me is, I want to know if you can be alone by yourself and enjoy your own company. So I love that line too. Part of the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp is, before this, I had a very hard time just spending time by myself. Ironically, like, I'm introvert, homebody. So when I go out and like I just have coffee by myself, I have a friend, batchmate, who he can watch a movie in the movie house by himself. For me, that still feels kind of weird or awkward, but I'm learning how to go out and then have coffee by myself without the need or feeling like, hey, someone has to be with me. If you could do that, that's super powerful. So if I'm 100% okay at peace, happy when I have coffee by myself, anything, fresh book, some food, whatever it is, and then someone joins me, then that's just a bonus. Still 100% happy, right? So I love that line. That's more of the enlightened part again of the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So quick review, because we were talking about reviews. People watching live the replay, what are the three most dangerous words? So you could type it in the chat if you were watching earlier. If you type that, I'll give you a shout out. What are the three most dangerous words? If you're watching this on the replay already, well, you could just click the timestamp on what part that was. Or, and people watching live the replay, what are the four magic words or the four powerful words? You could type that down below. So, and then I'll highlight you. I'll show you. Thank you, because you were paying attention. So, what's the next best lesson here? There's this thing called the process of manifestation. So, what is that? It's this TFAR, meaning our thoughts lead to our feelings, which lead to our actions, and they lead to our results. So I'll just focus on this part, this particular part in the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. The first part, our thoughts and our feelings, they're part of our inner world. Normally, people can't see that, right? Like visually or physically. Our actions, which is what Enlightened Warrior Training Camp is all about, it's the bridge of our inner world to our outer world. Most people just see that, right? Our actions or the results. People see results more, actually, which is the outer world manifestation. Our actions, maybe some of them see it, whether you're in the gym, you're doing your own work, right? You're in your workshop doing a live, doing your profession, right? Doing what you love. Those are the actions. And it's the bridge to make our inner world a reality, our outer world. Enlightened Warrior Training Camp is all about action. So why is this important? Our default, or in our mind, right, is protection. So what's protection, right? Protection is moving back here, right? I'm safe. Action is moving here, moving forward, right? To the unknown. Risk, right? I don't know what will happen. So our mind will hold us back. That's the default, right? Because of one main thing, which is fear. So fear, a lot of times, now I'm not saying all the time, sometimes it's real, but fear is also known as anticipation of pain. That's its definition. And a lot of times it's imagined. So Before, again, I don't want to be angry at this because there's such thing as a healthy expression of fear when it is real. Now, where it holds us back is when it's imagined, right? Real, okay, that's good. Imagined is it will hold us back. And 90% or like a lot of times, fear is imagined. It's not real, doesn't come true. It's exaggerated. Now, a cool tip is courage. People who have courage, it can only exist when there is fear. So if someone is fearless, meaning they felt no fear at all and they did it, then that's not an act of courage. It's not, right? So let's say I have fear. Fear I might get judged. Fear like something might go wrong. Like it's taking a risk for me to go live and put myself out there. That's an act of courage. But if there's a person you know and it's not a big deal and they actually like the attention and all, then there's no fear there. That's not really an act of courage. For that other person, it might be something else, right? That could be courage or overcoming fear. So, next best lesson, this is a very practical or helpful tip. Okay, Martin, I got fear, I got stuff holding me back. That's also known as our story in life. It's what's holding us back. Why is it called our story? It's everything in our past, all the way up to our present, right? It's who we are, our identity. So, what's the key, right? You said moving forward. What's the key? It's called our vision. So, vision is how to get through rotation, meaning like in a loop stuck. It's how to succeed. So, vision, what I learned, so I'm just adding extra lessons after my Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So, why I made a vision board, I heard these lines. This was from Steve Harvey, uh, who said this. So he said, and he quoted the Bible when he said this. He said, "A man without a vision will perish." So I'll relate it back to the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp notes, like our story, right? A man without a vision, a woman without a vision, they're just gonna stay stuck in their story, their history that they knew all along, predictable. So nothing new, nothing forward, no creation from that point, right? So the key is to focus on our vision. So when you are the one, because we're making it up, right? So we can choose. We can choose our story, which is our identity. Not bad, not good. If you feel like at a point you're stuck, then the vision above, right, is what will help you create or move forward in your life. Maybe move to a higher level, level up, grow. Maybe it's just how like reinventing or recreating yourself, right, to the next level. So here's the key to freedom. You don't have to believe your mind. You don't have to believe your limited story. Because this is how things were always, right? This is how they are. This is who I am. So the key is I can choose to believe my vision, which is why I created a vision board. I think it was back in 2016 when I first made mine, and it's been evolving. Now, if you're a person, maybe you were sleeping, you woke up, God, the universe gave you a vision one day, like Joseph the dreamer. That's cool. Like, do that. It took me intentional effort to just start with a version one of that with a vision. But it is possible. You could make it, or maybe you have it already all along. So, next best lesson, one thing they teach in Enlightened Warrior Camp is this. Holy moly. So, I just did it. So, it's called unconditional action. So, even when things are slipping out of your notebook, even when I don't feel like it, I still act. I act in spite of fear, in spite of doubt, in spite of worry, whatever it takes. So, an unconditional action actually made me do this live, made it possible to do it right now, to just start it, right, and put myself out there. So you can do it too. By the way, if there was a recent experience you had where you took unconditional action, you can comment down below. People watching the live or the replay. What do I mean? Maybe you were sick, but you still showed up, right? Maybe you had no money, right? All these excuses, but you still found a way, right? And still took unconditional action. Maybe everyone didn't believe you. No one supported you, right? And people were doubting you, but you still did it anyway. So that's the enlightened warrior, right? We take unconditional action, even when we don't feel like it. So, next best lesson. By the way, this is a lesson on whatever it takes. So, someone who is willing, the tendency is if I am willing, the universe, it won't test me as much. Actually, as crazy as this sounds, it might start to support you even. So, what I mean is when you're willing, you're so crazy, you're so, you know, warrior mode, right? I have a mentor. His term was, it's like God is on your side. So you will find a way. And there are people, places, events, the timing will even help you when you're in that mode. A person who is not willing, the more the universe will test you harder. Meaning the universe will like make life harder for you. Right? Or like why aren't things going my way? Because you're not willing. You're not willing to do whatever it takes. So here's the thing, like when I say words, when I do this live all out, right? Whatever it is, there's this line, fuck the form, get to the horn. So all that means is I'm gonna do whatever it takes, no matter what. So why do I say it? Why do we say it that way? There's an energy that only it can give, right? It can breathe. And if 4 words or like 4 letters in a word will take you out, then anything will. Oh, I don't like the way Martin talks or he talks or she talks. Then you're not gonna get very far in this life, right? Oh, he has an accent. When I started to understand this lesson, whatever it takes, I have a mentor. He says, I learn from everyone, even my enemies. So I don't care what your language, your accent is. I'll still make an effort, whatever it takes. I'm willing, right? I can still learn from you. I can still get better. I can still find a way. I'm not gonna make that stop me, right? So next best lesson. So why do we do certain things, especially in this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, right? Whether it's reviewing, whether it's moving chairs, right? Doing some random thing, waking up early. There's this lesson. It's because how you do anything is how you do everything. Now, understand this in this context, right? We're talking about habits. We're talking about reprogramming our life, right? We're being intentional. I'm not talking about this in a literal way, meaning being a perfectionist and then everything you do has to be perfect like that. No. All I'm saying is when I go full out 100% here, I do this so that when I meet you in person, I can treat you this way also. This is my practice. If I can't be the best version, the most courageous version, the most 1000% version of me, then it's going to be harder for me to do that when I meet you. If I can't be open here, well, what makes you think that I'll be open with you, right? So there's a lesson on that. I'm jumping ahead. It's called congruence. So what does congruence mean? The way I act here is the way I'll act there. The way I act in private is the way I act in public. Again, not to be taken like super literally, but if you get it, type hashtag or like type get it. I get it. So a warrior gives 100%. That's what I'm doing right now. Especially the first time and every time. So if you're not willing to give 100%, then don't do it, right? Don't get involved. So this is again in the context of the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp training, right? So the moment that I give 100%, it also makes me feel like I can get 100%, right? That's another way of overcoming or earning the right to that imposter syndrome. So next best lesson. Oh, this is a good lesson on habit, right? Why do we do things this way? Again, specifically, we're doing it to do deep work, right? To recondition those old, unsupportive habits. The habit is a choice. So I can have a choice of a habit of moving forward, or I can have a choice of a habit of being stopped. So before going on this live, my default habit was being stopped. It's too scary. If I press the live button, what will happen? Am I going to end in time? I have another meeting later. Bullshit, right? So the habit of moving forward is just press the goddamn button. Just do it, motherfuck face. Which is what I'm doing right now. So that's my humor, guys. So doing this, right? And we're 56 minutes in. It's a habit. Well, what if I can't go live for 1 minute? Then go live for an hour. Like what we're doing here, right? It will give you proof. It will give you the habit of moving forward or being able to do it versus the default habit of getting stopped, right? So Enlightened Warrior Training Camp will show you and make you experience a lot of habits that will let you move forward. Next best lesson. Okay, so this one is one of my favorite pages. So I'll show it to you. It's like one of the highlights. If I could take a screenshot of this, and I'll read it with you guys. So I'll go through this. So this one is, I've seen people with incredible challenges not be stopped. Because of your courage, do you have any idea how you changed our lives? These are people with perceived disabilities. What do I mean? There's this story of a 15-year-old, Johnny, who attended Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. He's from Alberta, Canada. He had titanium ribs, and then he had an oxygen tank with him. He still did it. Now, some of you may have other perceived disabilities. I know a person, literally physically, he lost an eye. I know another person who he grew up with a brain condition, right? Got tubes in his body. Those people inspire me because, like, what's my excuse? What's my disability, right? And they still do it. Warrior up. They still do it. And these are intense activities. Ice bath. Man, they could bike long distances, 200 kilometers, like that in Subic. Some crazy shit, which I haven't done. So that's how they changed my life because I see it and I appreciate it on that level. Last line here is, there is nothing more intense than a warrior near the finish line. What does that mean? So we had this activity. You go through a long, arduous challenge, right? And there is a finish line, with a ribbon, that string and all. So what does a warrior do? When you're tired, you're feeling weak, and you're near that finish line. So what I was told, the lesson was, when you are near the finish line, you run even faster. So you don't slow down, you don't stop before the fucking finish line. You run full speed, full power, and you don't stop in the end. You run through it, right? That's a warrior. So that's what it means. But there's nothing more intense. And I love that. I love that, right? If only you could throw the weights right in the gym, right in the mirror. But then you get the point, right? There's nothing more intense. So, next best lesson here in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, what's holding you back won't hold you back anymore. Maybe some of you could feel it already, right? Oh, that's not gonna stop me. This Wi-Fi connection isn't gonna stop me. I'm going live anyway, right? For you, it could be work, meaning if you're doing sales work, rejection. Hey, you're a guy, you're feeling shy, you get rejected by girls, by women all the time, like that. Still reach out anyway. Send a message, right? Put yourself out there. If you're a girl, what are your, by the way, women, like what are your challenges? I'm curious. So I'll read it and I'll highlight it. The point is, what's holding you back? It won't hold you back anymore. So here in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, next best lesson is we will put you in hot water. What does that mean? When you're in a very uncomfortable situation, it will turn up the chatter in your mind. What is that? All these thoughts and the feelings, like, what am I doing here? I want to go out. I want to quit, right? These are some familiar lines. Harv Eker calls it mind frick, right? It's like mind friction or resistance. So when we do an uncomfortable situation, going to the gym, a challenge, an ice bath, right? Doing our homework, doing our work, we start hearing these thoughts or feeling these feelings. I'm not good enough. I'm afraid. I'm not ready. I don't feel like it. Or maybe these are familiar. When it gets even more intense, you might get hurt. You might kill yourself. I'm too weak. I don't want to. So if you could relate again, hashtag relate, comment down below. People watching the live or the replay, I definitely could relate. And I hear and I feel those every time I go into an ice bath or I'm about to. So it could be any other challenge you do. Maybe you're lifting some heavy weights, you go to the gym and you feel it. Like you feel like your mind is telling you, hey, are you trying to kill yourself here? Like that. But we could overcome it. So what's the key? We can choose to buy into it, like all these weak, disempowering thoughts, or we can choose to step through it like a warrior, right? And just keep going. So, what is one big tip here that will help? When you have a thought like that, for example, you may have experienced this in your life personally. Road rage for the people who drive here, all these men, lady drivers, and you experience road rage. Someone cuts you off, traffic, someone acting like an asshole, right? What do you do? I get that we get angry sometimes, we lose it. But what else can we do, right? Let it go. So that's the practice here in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. We can actually let the thought go. We can let the feeling go or let it pass. And then do what we need to do. Just keep going. So, how do we do that? I'll just continue on this next step. When that mind frick or the feeling comes up, step one, we can just say a line like, thank you for sharing. Again, for magic words, powerful words. Thank you for sharing. Okay. And then step two is one step at a time, allowing it to let it pass. I remember when I started doing ice baths in 2021, November, what I was taught was, aside from the thank you for sharing, so have an empowering thought, right? Is to just breathe. That's the one step at a time part. Sometimes the only thought I would latch on is my teacher, Mark. Uh, my ice bath teacher, I would just listen to him because he would be counting. So I follow the breaths. Deep breath in. One, like that. That's my only thought. I'm just counting and breathing. So that helps me overcome the emotion and the crazy thoughts, right? Next best lesson. So there, again, without spoiling the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, there were these four main challenges. So some might call it games, but it's like, there are four challenges that you go through. So hello MJ. Good evening. Welcome to the best lessons for Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. Hope you learned something new. So there are four main challenges in this Enlightened Warrior Training Camp over the course. The first day is like an intro, and then there are these four main challenges. So without overly spoiling anything, so one of them, this is a best lesson I learned on. So let's call it perturbation. I think that's Latin. Perturba is like to disturb, right? So it's gonna try to disturb you. So the best lessons I learned from this, you'll go through the experience yourself, right? Best lessons I got. This was taught by Sifu Aaron Huey. So Sifu is like a master, like it's a term like that, right? He was a former drug addict and he has a 12-year-old daughter. So this is back in 2019 when I took it. Amazing man and human being. He looks really intimidating though, with a beard and all. But the lessons I learned here, it's so one is back off. And this is just a personal lesson I learned, how I integrated it in my life. They didn't literally explain it this way. I just learned it later on. So back off is an experiential way of learning personal boundaries. And here's the key and the balance that I learned to it. So when we say back off, there we go. It's to do it with love and not anger. So this is super challenging. Imagine someone's trying to push you up against the wall, bully you, right? Maybe someone's even going to attack your family. Could be your brother, your sister, your parents, or your kid, right? If you have one. So how do you tell someone to back off, right? And to do it with love, not anger. First is you have to feel it really deep down inside. And personally, there are a lot of mixed emotions. For me, part of my shadow work, again, I'm personally just sharing and integrating my lessons on my level, is a lot of times growing up, I really felt scared or I held myself back because I didn't want to black out. I felt like all this anger and rage, if I allow it, it's kind of like the Hulk or Jekyll and Hyde. I would just black out, and then when I wake up, the person would be dead or something like that. Like I'd lose control. So first is to allow yourself to feel it, and then back off is when we stay still, meaning we hold our ground, right? Hold our ground versus ego or anger overcoming us. So I guess the ego or the anger is losing control, right? Versus just standing our ground. The second step or the tip here is focus on the person you love. So this is very tricky. So let's say in my personal experience, when I did my exercise, I was focusing on my dad. For example, if someone was attacking my dad, who's, like in his late 60s now, if someone was trying to attack him, how would I feel if I was like gonna protect him in that moment, right? So it's a very experiential exercise that I went through. Back off is the balance of not letting my ego or anger consume me, but at the same time, still being firm and having that personal boundary. And man, I wish I could practice that more frequently, right? So people who take up a martial art like boxing, jiu-jitsu, like that, a lot of times when you spar, and I do this with martial arts, the best masters, they teach you to not use it. Even when I took firearms training growing up, it will teach you not to use the gun. So there's a very big difference between self-defense, right, versus going out of your way to shoot someone or, hurt someone, right? So that's back off, right? And then, yeah, there are other powerful lessons you're gonna go through, which are about forgiveness, and maybe I'll mention some best lessons on that later that are practical and help you. Next best lesson. So one of the other facilitators here is Robert Lawrence Friedman. And this guy was very interesting. Like he was teaching us like drumming, very like on a light note, like play, having fun. So the first lesson here is congruence from him. Again, a very different perspective. We're going back to the enlightened part from the Enlightened Warrior. Congruence is when what you say and what you do align. So I love that. And here are some tips or lessons I learned. Because some of us will say, well, I feel awkward. I don't know if I could do that, like that. So he was teaching us actually how to connect. So, for example, there's this activity where you look at a person like a long lost friend. The tendency that will happen is your facial expression or the smile, it will produce a positive impression. So, this is where some people might feel awkward or like fake it till you make it style. But it's actually, I would say, it's after going through it, it's like tapping into your higher self and you're just not used to it. So it will start to feel more familiar and natural to you later on. So here's another exercise that I took note of. When you have a fake smile or a fake laugh, the tendency is that will lead to a real one. So for anyone who's experienced that, like when you start laughing, even if it's fake, like does it eventually become a real one, or do you feel like genuinely laughing after? So that was the tip there. And why am I sharing this? This is the best lesson that hit me. It doesn't matter what you do up here. What matters is that you do come up here. Why? Because who is afraid to come up here? Who is afraid to put themselves out there, right? Put themselves on the spot, on the line. When you do that, that's the win already. That's what matters. Next best lesson that hit me. So this might sound kind of like, whoa, what are you talking about now? It's a lesson on silliness. So acting silly. Why is this important when you act silly? It's so you can heal yourself. So some people get this. Let's say people, whether you're around my age, like I'm 36, or older, you're getting at that certain point wherein maybe you have your first child, right? For me, it was my nephew and my niece. So when you see a baby and they're acting silly, it reminds us to also act silly. And that's very healing. Why? When we are in that mode, there's one part of life which is stress, right? We take life very seriously, intense. So that's the fight or flight mode of our body. The other side, when we act silly or the rest and digest, that's the healing mode of our body. We allow ourselves to be at peace, to heal, to grow, to be creative. So that was a very good reminder for me. Next, there's also this. Was a real good reminder for me. This is called in your power versus out of your power. And this one, sometimes you gotta spell it out for me. Super logical, technical guy. In your power, how does that feel? Enlightened, light feeling, looking up. Forward. Good posture, you feel good. Power, easy to connect, smile. Respect, love, connected to the divine. That's in your power. How about out of your power? How does it feel? Heavy, constricted, small, weak, slow, sluggish, slouching, not looking at the person in the eye, looking down. So, could you feel the difference there? Like in your power versus out of your power. It had to be spelled out. When I read that again, it became more clear. Now here's the lesson. It takes a millisecond to change from in your power to out of your power. It happens. It happens to us every day, sometimes in moments, right? In mini milli moments. So the good reminder is we can go back to inner power. And that was part of the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So next best lesson, I love this one. Our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So that's a Harv Eker line that I learned also. So what are we doing in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp? We're actually working on our inner world. So that's what we do. So going through this entire process in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. So and this is why let's see if you could see this, right? Yeah, the shirt. In Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, we go through a lot of deep work, which is inner work on ourselves, right? A lot of what people will see is mainly the action. But when I share these best lessons, this is the inner work. This is why I'm sharing it with you guys, right? So, and I love it. So, I'll, who wants a live demonstration? People watching the live replay, if you want a live demonstration, comment down below, right? So, comment sample, right? That's what I always say. Sample. So if you want a live demonstration of the inner work that we do here, then I'll do it. I'll show it for you. Just comment down below. So the next breakthrough here, this is part of Robert Lawrence Friedman's lesson, was this. He grew up with a critical parent. His mother was an opera singer. And she said to him, "You have a terrible singing voice. You should never sing in front of an audience." So for him, singing his song was his own breakthrough. Why? If you have a fear of it, then you should do it. The more you should do it, because the more it will be a breakthrough for you. So one of the exercises here, activities, was to actually make our own song, our Enlightened Warrior Camp song. So if you want to hear it, just comment down below, right? Sample. And magically, you will get one. All right, so thank you for that. So here we go. So this is my song, my sample of my Enlightened Warrior Camp song. Here I go. Enlightened warriors, when I didn't give up, I gave myself a hand to pick me up. And every time I miss it, I just look up at oh how I was falling, holding on for my dear life. So that's my Enlightened Warrior Camp song. Alright. So I'll give myself a hand for that. Thank you. So why did I do that? Why did I do that live demo? That sample demonstration for you? This is the lesson, right? For anyone who would feel scared, I might look silly, I might look stupid like that. Hey, I felt that too, believe it or not. If you could touch my body right now, you'll feel it. Right? So the lesson here is to just write it, to just make the song, to sing it. Why? It's creativity, spontaneity in the moment, right? It's risk, putting yourself out there. We don't know how we're gonna sound, right? What people will say. Some people might bash it. Some people might love it. Someone might get inspired by it, right? But what we're doing is we're stepping out of our boundaries or our comfort zone. So that definitely was out of my comfort zone. And when you do that for yourself, that becomes your breakthrough. So, next best lesson, we're moving forward. There is one lesson here that I love also. I'll probably repeat it in some form or another. It's this line: if she can do it, I can do it. Right? If he can do it, I can do it. If you can do it, I can do it. So what does that mean? There's the short story of Melinda Gates. Melinda Gates is the wife of Bill Gates. So, Microsoft, Bill Gates. So one day, Melinda Gates, she would drive and bring their daughter to school. Bill Gates told his wife Melinda, I can do it half of the days. All the mothers in school noticed that, right? And they started, like, they would see Bill Gates drop off his daughter in school. So what happened was, husbands started bringing or driving their kids to school too. And they said, if Bill Gates, right, the founder of Microsoft, a billionaire, right, person on his level, maybe he's super busy, I don't know, right? If Bill Gates can do it, then you can do it too. So I love that line because I actually experienced that too several times when I took my Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. Next best lesson. I like this one. It's on asking for support. So I ask for support. It is vulnerable. It is not weakness. So I love this because this is Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. Even a warrior knows how to ask for support. And yes, it is vulnerable, but no, it is not weakness. So I love that. It's also realizing the importance of a team, right? So people who understand that more. So why were we doing all those things earlier, like singing, silliness, in my power versus out of my power, right? One of the fastest ways to change your state is through physiology. So this can be through our posture. Another thing is what I learned later on is through breathing. And I only learned that after, right? I did this in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp 2019. 2021, 2 years after, I learned about breath work, the ice bath training, physiology. That's another way to change our state. Why is that important? Even if we're in a very intense or uncomfortable situation, there are little things or powerful things, I would say, we can do to change our state. Instead of sinking into more discomfort, craziness, right, weakness, we can actually still feel powerful in that moment. For the ice bath example, it's the breathing, the Wim Hof breaths, Ujjayi breath, the relaxing breath, that cyclic breath, right? Deep breaths, like that. It'll help us overcome the overwhelming thoughts, the physical pain, the emotional pain also, so mental, and then it can actually transform into a feeling of power, right? So that's a form of like alchemy or state change, in other words, right? So we can also do it through our breath. Next best lesson. I like this. I like this line over here. I have no miracles. Make right action my miracles. So I love that. So it also, remember earlier I said this part about be the cause, not the effect, right? Effect is like life happening to me, the victim, like that. I can't do anything about it. Cause is like being the warrior. I am the creator of my life. So when I make the right action, miracles will happen. I can actually create miracles. I think they even made that into a shirt, like expect miracles, or like I can create miracles. So I love that line, right? Make right action my miracles. So I'm not the cause. I'm the creator of my life. How do I do that? By making the right action, and then miracles happen. Versus someone else who says, I'll just wait for a miracle and maybe a miracle will happen one day. No. The enlightened warrior will make the right action and will make the miracle happen. So, next best lesson. This was, I believe, from the lead trainer that time. So, he said, I'm watching you from behind the scenes. Whether you go full on, what does that mean? And thank you again, JB, Jane, MJ, for your comments, for participating earlier. Full on means participating, being in the room. You really are there, present in the moment, right? Sometimes it's easier because it's you feel the energy, it's entertaining, right? Or the lessons hit you hard. Sometimes it's harder. It's you're sitting in discomfort. But the more, that's when the warrior comes in even more, right? So that's full on. The alternative is only giving 50%. And that sucks personally for me. So if you don't like the rules, then leave the camp, right? You don't have to do it. No one's forcing you to be here, right? But if you go full on, then you choose. You are here to change your life, right? And it works if you follow it 100%, right? By the rules. Why? You become 100% accountable and you hold your power. If not, then you give your power away. So you could feel the difference. The next best lesson, so moving forward on that lesson is people who are not accountable, right? 100% accountable versus 50% or not accountable. So that's more on the victim side. Blame, justify, complain. There's a line here that says, I do not feel sorry for victims because they are persecutors. That line already hits for some people. Why? Because the victim will always find a person to blame, right? To point the finger. They'll blame someone else. They persecute someone. And they attract that in their life. So I don't feel sorry for them. And next best lesson, so moving forward, is there are levels to life. And I'll just show this first here because it's easier when you see the writing. So we're going from a victim, and some people will say, how do you cope, right? How do you cope with life? Coping is just one level above, right? So that's just surviving. What we learn, or what they teach in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, is not just to survive, but it's also how to thrive. And I love how that connects to another lesson of another mentor here on my dream board, Owen Cook, who said, coping versus thriving. Again, he's not teaching you how to just settle, to cope, right? Just enough, just survive, just get by in life. He's teaching you a different paradigm of thriving, right? The warrior is powerful. It's growth, right? It's becoming the best version of ourselves. Next best lesson. I choose to model the greatness I see in life. So again, whether it's the example of Bill Gates, whether it's a partner in my team who there was this one challenge where I was on the verge of giving up, and I was, breathing deep, all these crazy thoughts of quitting. And there was this girl, this woman with asthma who could barely breathe, and she still wasn't giving up. And for me, that was greatness. I was like, if she can do it, then Martin, you better not give up. Now, some people might call that ego. I'd say, man, that's inspiration, right? That's a very healthy expression of it. And it empowered me to get through that difficult challenge, actually. Speaking of next best lesson, weakness is a choice. So I like this distinction. Weakness is a choice. It's okay to feel it. The problem is when it becomes your way of being. So I love this distinction again. Weakness is not bad. It's actually okay to feel it. Why? It's part of being a human, right? It helps me understand you, myself more, everyone else in humanity. We all feel it. The problem is when it becomes your way of being. So even a warrior feels weakness, but it's not your way of being, right? Okay, next best lesson. So this one is called you create the situation. And there's this formula here. It's also related to, we've been talking about choice. I choose to, like that. So how do I create the situation? So I'm going to put it here. It's this simple formula. E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. So what does that mean? Event is anything that happens to us in life. Response is our choice to the way we handle it versus just reacting, right? Feeling and having no control over ourselves. So response is the choice part of our life, and that will equal our outcome. The overall how we felt, our interpretation, our experience of life. So I choose to versus life just happening right to me. So I love that because again, if you want to test yourself, put yourself in hot water, meaning a stressful situation, you know, like work out without the electric fan, without aircon, like that. Go, if you're an indoor person, go out in the sun or take a walk while it's raining, right? Most people complain. They get stopped by that. That's living in response or the choice. I can choose to still be happy in this moment, right? And I love that. That's again part of the Enlightened Warrior Training. By the way, when we say I choose or choice or response, we can also say I choose not to versus I won't or I can't, right? What feels more empowering? And we can also say I will do my absolute best versus I'll try. So I love that, which is what I'm doing tonight here. Thank you. Thank you, Arman, for watching the live, for the support. Super appreciate it. We're almost, getting through this best lessons here, right, with the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. And you are far more powerful than you realize. So when we do these lessons. So the second big challenge out of the four, so let's call this one purification. Again, when you go through the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, you'll experience it yourself. So what I just want to share are the best lessons I got and how I integrated it in my life. The lead trainer of this was Luis Emiliano Pingaron. Pardon, I'm just trying to pronounce your name the best way I can. He was from Mexico or San Diego, California. And then he had a rough upbringing. This guy has like tattoos. He had divorced parents, 18 years old, served in the Navy, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. He saw things in war. He lost brothers. 21 years old, finally out. He missed the first 1.5 years of his first child, his son, and then he was divorced. So what I love is this background, super powerful, is he turned it into a process of healing. And this has got to be this one is probably my favorite out of the four challenges, and I'll explain why. So what he did was super interesting. He learned from a Native American, like legit. His name was Chief Thunderhawk of the Lakota tribe, that the lineage. And he preserved the tradition of this process at Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. And he's been 2019 when I took it, he was doing it for 10 years already. And he's helped thousands of people. So thank you, Armand. You reminded me also that I'll do whatever it takes. You will live that in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. And this is us practicing it right now in real life, right? So you will really experience it, not just like talking about it here. So in the meantime, let's just learn the best lessons, right? So what is this about? Some lines that hit me here. You took more than you can handle. So again, it's about going through these challenges that we think or feel that we can't handle. Now, since I went through it, whatever that experience is in your life, you could apply it. So I learned about ice baths, right? Cold immersion, cold plunge, 2021. For you, it could be walking on fire. You know, if you took a Tony Robbins event, it could be going through a gym doing HIIT, intensity interval training, doing anything that is extremely uncomfortable, right? And you were able to handle it after going through the process. So, why is this powerful? Next line is teaching me how to heal myself. So, when we go through a process like this, it will teach us how to heal ourselves. So, what are examples of this? It could be overcoming fear, right? Like public speaking. Some of you, let's say you're afraid of spiders or snakes. It could be a breakthrough moment wherein, in a controlled environment or with a guide, you go to a zoo or someplace and then you get to put the snake like on your shoulders, on your body, right? So that could be a very healing experience, right? Overcome the trauma. So fear, when we experience that, warrior up, it's doing it this way. The fear goes away, it disappears, and we feel our emotions. So next best lesson, I love this. So same facilitator, Luis taught this one. It's called How to Get Anything You Want in This World. So I like this one. I'll go through it quickly. Number one, so 4 steps to this. How to get anything you want in this world. 1, place your order with clarity and conviction. So I'll integrate this again, like instead of just talking about it or repeating, right? Place your order with clarity and conviction. Oh, so what's your example, Martin? Well, it's doing a dream board or a vision board. When you place your order, your intention, be clear, right? Some people say when you put the vision of your car, or in my case, it was a motorcycle, down to the specific model, down to some people even say the color or how it smells, the more conviction, like the more it will happen. Step 2, be willing to make an exchange, pay for it. Now, what I learned is it's not only the price, meaning money. Oh, it costs 150,000 pesos, right? It costs $3,000 US dollars. So that's the price to pay for it. No, When you say be willing to make an exchange for it, I'll give you a real example happening right now. So I've been using a MacBook Pro laptop 2011, 12 years old already. It's 2023. When I set an intention, know what I want. Because I want to get a MacBook Pro M1, right? This will serve me for the next 5 to 10 years. Be willing to make an exchange. It's not just the price. I want to find the lowest price, the best price. Be willing to make an exchanges. Are you willing to go on Carousel, Facebook Marketplace, look for good deals, meet up with a person? That's effort, that's a price to pay. Take the time and have the patience to do all that. That is being willing to make the exchange for it and paying for it, right? Paying for it not just through money, but through my time, my effort, my patience, right? Just like right now. Why am I doing all this? I'm paying the price to live my mission, to live my vision, right? Number three, step three, move towards it, move forward to it. So that can literally be taking one step forward. If you're doing a physical, like you're trying to run 10K, 21K, 42K, a marathon, move forward to it. It could be one step, one stride, right? 1 kilometer, 1 hour into it. Step four, receive it. Take it home with you and enjoy. So even though that might sound fun and all, personally, step four is actually sometimes the most challenging because a lot of us, we don't know that we already have been receiving blessings in our life, right? Could be a place to stay, food, right? It could be something, a cell phone, a brand new cell phone like that. But if we don't know how to receive it, we don't know how to take it home with us and enjoy it, appreciate it, utilize it to its fullest, then you're not going to get it. You won't be able to get it in this world, right? So, those four simple steps again. So, how to get anything you want in this world. Next best lesson. I like this one. It's called Save Yourself First. Save yourself first. What does that mean? Help yourself. You have to be working on yourself. This is the way we do it. So why in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, a warrior won't be able or will have a very hard time helping another person if I can't even have the strength to help myself, to heal myself first. So I love that lesson. It's a very good reminder. Why? Filipino culture, this is just the way I grew up. Hashtag relate if you could relate. Type it down in the comments. Again, people watching the live or the replay. The way I grew up, maybe for some of you too, is the way we grew up here in the Philippines. We're taught, whether it's by family, religion, or culture, that help others first, right? So it's like training us how to be a doormat, in other words, which I learned the hard way. But I love what Armand put here, right in the comments. Just like in the airplane, we need to put our own oxygen mask first before putting the oxygen mask on someone else. Why? Well, if I run out of oxygen when the plane is crashing, I'm gonna pass out, right? I'm gonna die. I won't be able to save myself. I won't be able to help other people in the process. In fact, what happens is I become excess baggage on the plane, meaning I end up becoming dead weight or extra liability, and I could even cause other people to die, right? So there is like a destructive domino effect to that. That's why save yourself first, which I love this lesson is help yourself. And then you have to be working on yourself, which will make us capable of helping other people the right way. So, next best lesson. And there are a lot of good lessons in here. Oh, and this is a continuity lesson for me, but it could be a very good reminder for some of you as well, because I went through the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, but then what do you do after? So one lesson that hit me here is foundation. Find what works, then keep doing it. So I accidentally learned and went through this. So Enlightened Warrior Training Camp was September 29, 2019 to October 3, again, 2019. The foundation I found later on of these practices, whether it's healing or being a warrior, right, is 2021. So November 2021, November 25, that was, again, 2 years after, November 25, 2021, the first time I did my first ice bath, guided, like with a teacher. So I found something that works that I could still keep doing to help me practice and maintain and sustain the lessons. It's not like, hey, let's attend Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. We're all okay, boom, everything is fixed. It's kind of like going to the gym. When we find something that works or helps us, it's a continuous process. Now, you don't have to do the same workout every day, every week, every month, every year. You could find other things to mix it up, have some variety, make it fun, make it sustainable. But the point is, find what works and then keep doing it. And it took me some time actually to find that. Next best lesson. For you, by the way, before we move forward, what are some activities that you do, people watching the live or the replay, what did you find that works for you and then you keep doing it? Like, what are some activities that have worked for you? So my personal example was after Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, I discovered ice baths, 2021. Maybe for you, it could be yoga. I've heard of other people do that. Maybe for others, it's different workout. So I'm curious. I'm curious to learn from you. And maybe it might work for me or it might help someone else, right? So thank you. So next, so in the second challenge, out of the four, this one, the lesson I learned was it's like going through hell. So again, without spoiling anything more, right? Thank you. So thank you, Armand, Wim Hof. So I believe that's the Wim Hof method. So the breath work, super powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I also learned this from my teacher, my ice bath teacher, who, again, the foundation is actually breath work. The Wim Hof method or the breath work isn't just for the ice bath. I found it super practical or helpful because when you go through intense situations like this, it's like a simulated anxiety attack. So let's say you do the Wim Hof breathing, the method. It could help you get through a moment like that. So it helped me one time get through nausea, meaning I felt like I was gonna vomit, like food poisoning. Um, it also can help you get through anxiety, a very tough time, stuck in traffic, right in the car, feeling like pissing. So super helpful, these practices or these methods. So back to the next best lesson. The second challenge, I guess the way I would put it is when you go through an experience that feels like hell, and it could be dark, it could be hot, it could be super uncomfortable, painful. It's my realization is to just get through it is your breakthrough already. It's a breakthrough. And then right after, I wasn't conscious as much, whether it's about my body image, um, more petty concerns, right? In the moment, overthinking. And you have a choice. You can leave behind your story. So for me, you can choose, what do I want to leave behind? My depression. For you, it could be a heartbreak. It could be suffering. It could be anything. Like, what do you want to leave behind in your life right now? And then the next step is, what will you bring with you after this experience? So it could be healing, it could be growth, it could be creativity, it could be moving on to the next best part of your life, right? So let's move forward. Let's try to finish this best lessons. Let's get to it near the end. So a lesson on stress here. I'm gonna shift back to Robert Lawrence Friedman, who was talking about silliness, playfulness, congruence, right? It's the other side to stress, right? There's stress, and then there's the healing, the silliness, reconnecting back with having fun, like that. Why? Living in stress too much, too long, is not natural. It can lead to heart attack, stroke, it could lead to disease. And there's actually science already that backs that up. If you're, I'm learning recently from Bruce Lipton, so he's a doctor. So our environment, all the way down to our thoughts, negative thoughts, stress, right? Not necessarily just our biology. It can lead to disease, right? It affects our genes, our body, the expression of it, epigenetics. So there's a science that backs it up. In other words, next best lesson. So this is about integrity and our values. So when we stick to our values, our integrity, so it is our true self versus our false self. True self is what is true to our heart and our soul, which is why I'm doing this, right? An example. A false self example is any moment where we feel like we're selling our soul to the devil. So what does that mean? It's the easy way out. It's the shortcut, right? Giving up, right? It's like cheating, that bad vibe. Deal with the devil, like easy up front, but then the payback is it's gonna destroy us 1,000 times um, in return, right? So next best lesson here is tell the truth with compassion. That's one thing I love about the Enlightened Warrior training. Tell the truth, right? Be upfront. Okay, Martin, you can do that. But remember to still do it with compassion. So, next best lesson, true power is when you can decline an invitation without having to give a reason. So that's extremely powerful. A lot of times when we decline an invitation, we have to explain. A lot of times people give excuses, white lies, right? So when you're in your true power, you don't even have to say anything, right? Meaning you don't even have to explain or give a reason. You can just say no, hey, no, thank you, and you're solid. You're good. Next best lesson. So I love this one. One of my favorites. Keep your commitments unreservedly, meaning I will do it no matter what, right? I will stick to my commitment and do it. Start to end, finish what I start. Why? If not, because you never complete your commitment, what tends to happen? Asshole, betrayed, no trust. And the worst commitment is commitment to self, and then we don't do it. What happens is we tend to feel worthless or we beat ourselves up. For me, this is super relatable. And the next lesson related to it is super key. The smaller the commitment, the more important it is. Why? Your word becomes law. Meaning, if I say something, I will do it. It could be as small as, hey, I'm gonna spend time with my family. Meaning, hey, maybe my brother said, let's have lunch or merienda, uh, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., because there's like this cutoff. And then for me to say, yes, let's do it, and to show up for it. Now, it's easy. Some of you might say, hey, that's easy to do. You're right. It's also easy not to do. And when we not do it, it destroys us. Why? Because commitment is power. Commitment is freedom. So that's a super powerful and one of my favorite lessons here. Now, someone might say, well, Martin, if you say commitment and you take it that seriously, well, will I not feel stuck, or like I have to make so many commitments in my life? No, here's the balance, right? So the balance here is you can also decommit, right? And here's another tip. Do not overcommit. So if I made a commitment already, you can formally decommit to the person. Talk to the person, right? So you can acknowledge, clear it out mutually. Why? Because I don't take my commitments lightly. Now your word can also be something legit happened. Hey, I have a meeting, I have work, I have business to attend to. Is it okay if we reschedule or move this? Because I take my commitments, on that level, I don't take it lightly. So that's a powerful lesson. Also, when your word becomes law, the Enlightened Warrior is, it helps us live life on a different level. A lot of people will have indecision, and I could relate to that, right? We're afraid to commit. But indecision equals immobilized, meaning that's why we feel stuck a lot of times in life, because we don't make a decision or a commitment. And here's the tip that helped me: commit to the small things. When I count my blessings, right? I've committed to that, counting my blessings every day for the past maybe 2 or 3 years, right? Maybe that's like 1,000 days already. Start small. Do you have to write a lot every day, Martin? No. Read them on my Facebook profile, right? So those small wins, they stack up. Tony Robbins says that, I'm just adding. So when you stack those small wins, that's how you build yourself up versus beat yourself up, right? And then another mentor I learned from, he calls that like a victory cyclone, Brandon Carter. So you get, it's not just the momentum, but your self-esteem, self-worth, you start building it brick by brick. And people will say, how do you do that? How do you do a 2-hour live, Martin? Well, I started it by making small commitments, and it started building up to this point. Okay. So another tip on how do you distinguish to know what you want, what to commit to, right? So here's a lesson. It's called ego want versus true want. And very simply, the ego want is usually linked with instant gratification. It feels good right here, right now. Quick fix. A true want is, it's right for you. And those who feel the difference, you get it, right? It doesn't just feel good up front. It will be good for me, even in the long term, right? It will make me a better person. It's win-win for everyone. So next best lesson. So this one is a lesson on passion. This is something I'm challenged with growing up as a thinker, conditioned like introvert, INTJ, scientist, personality type. When it comes to passion, here's a line. It says, see, that's the problem. You're thinking about it in your head. Come from the heart. If it feels right to you, it feels right to you. It doesn't matter what I think. So, a reminder and passion, again, why I'm doing this live also, is coming from this. If I came from the head, all this perfectionism, oh, the lighting, all this and that, I would never be able to act unconditional action, right? But I'm coming from the heart instead. So some of you, maybe you feel the difference, right? What I love is this too. When I see people commenting, I love this, even just the comments. What more when you put yourself out there? Jane, I know she also does her lives, she does her videos. The lesson here is you're being the example. You are being the example. So you are not alone. I feel less alone because when you do it, it gives me permission, or I feel like, hey, she did it. I'm going to do a live too, right? And all that fear, the overwhelm, it goes away. It becomes easier to do it. So, next best lesson. I love this one. I made a shorter video on this, but this is the whole best lessons, right? You're getting it. I entitled that one "How to Handle Hate." So this one is a lesson on when someone else puts out hate or anger, right, onto us. How do we take that, right? How do we not take it personally? What can we do? So the lesson here is what they say has nothing to do with you. And we went through this. I'll give you the explanation. We also went through an activity. What they say has nothing to do with you. It is based on their programming, meaning their upbringing, right? How they were conditioned growing up, and what's going on inside themselves. So remember when someone said something that hurt you in your life. It could be when you were growing up, it could be recent. Maybe it was someone at work, maybe it was someone out there in public, and it was really mean, borderline damaging, like that verbal, emotional, mental. So the next line here is just because someone puts poison on your plate doesn't mean you have to eat it. When someone is lashing out, road raging onto you, onto me, right, onto us, they're just putting poison out there in the world. And yeah, sometimes it feels, we feel it, right? It could hurt us, right? If we allow it. So it doesn't mean that we have to eat it. Because the moment we get consumed by their hate, we start hating back, we get tempted, it's like we're eating their poison. That's like the most visual way of explaining it. And here's another last tip that helped. They must have been in a dark place for that poison to come out. So for people watching the live or the replay, you can comment down below what are some examples of people who have put poison on your plate, right? Maybe someone said something that hurt you. Maybe someone did something that hurt you. Like maybe when you upload your video on YouTube, someone gave it a thumbs down. Maybe on a next level, every time you upload a video, you start noticing this person consistently automatic thumbs down in your video, right? So just because that person is putting poison on your plate, it doesn't mean you have to eat it. And they must have been coming for a dark place for that poison to come out. That helped calm me down and give me peace. And it helped me not take it personally. Next best lesson. So, by the way, people who are commenting on the live and also on the replay, thank you for that. Why is that helpful as well when you share? So, the lesson here this is called clearing exercise. So, what that means is when you put it out there and you release it responsibly in this space, right? In this safe space or controlled environment in this context, right? We do it responsibly. It's very healing. It's like purging or releasing that poison from us. Everyone has some form of poison in us, me too included. So clearing is releasing that responsibly. So thank you. Thank you for those practicing that right now. So we went on to have this third big challenge out of 4. And my realizations, my lessons, best lessons there was I just learned this. My personal realization was there was a guy who always went first, Hector, when I did this third challenge out of 4. And I always went second. So the lesson I got from that was when someone led first, he made me believe in him because these activities were really challenging. You will face your fears, uh, you're going to overcome difficulty, right? Or the impossible. He made me believe him, and it made the experience more fun or funny, less scary. So it empowered me. I love that. And then when I went second, I don't know because I didn't verbally hear the feedback, but I believe everyone else after it starts empowering them as well. So I heard this term actually. It's from this other course, like Ultimate Leadership Camp. They call it 2IC or Second in Command. So this is just a bonus lesson, but they call it great leaders are great followers. What does that mean? So there's the first person, the leader, right? Who steps up. And then there's the second in command. That's also very powerful because once I follow or once I get empowered and do that, it gives even more permission for more people, for the rest of the people to also follow or do it as well. So sometimes one person isn't enough, right? So 2 times more powerful. Next best lesson. So there was this next activity we did, and again I'll just share my best lessons because those who went through Millionaire Mind Intensive, you go through this breakthrough activity in one of the last days, and then this one just took it on another level. So best lessons is it takes 100% commitment right from the very first moment. There's some moments in our life wherein it takes that level to do it, to just do it. And then, like life, this was a game. So it gave me an opportunity to practice. What I do here in training, I will be more capable of doing it in real life. So everything you see, you feel, you're learning, I'm only able to share it with you because I went through it. And now I'm sharing it back with you. So my level of consciousness, my level of awareness, my level of capacity or capability I'm sharing back with you is what I went through. I'm sharing it with you now. So 100% or it won't work at all. So these are moments that you will experience, like going 100% all in, right? Maybe an example of that out of Enlightened Warrior Camp that I experienced was skydiving. When they say 100% all in, right? Or when you're up in that plane and you are skydiving, as an example, when you say 100% or it won't work at all is you can't go half out of the plane. You either jump, right? Or you quit, like you don't jump at all. So in Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, you will go through experiences or moments like that. So next best lesson, we're going through, I'm gonna blitz through this now. We're on day 5, the last one already. The last main challenge, 4 out of 4, the lessons I got from it was this. So this fourth main challenge, the lead facilitator, uh, anyway, like I'll explain more. I'll just stick to the lesson. What you do here is exactly what you do back home. So I'll repeat that from like the previous lessons that I've been sharing. What I do here in the Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, it's me in training so that I can practice it here and I'm going to be more capable of doing it in the real world. And it's intense. So if I can do it here, it makes it more possible to even do it at all, right, in the real world. So in this challenge, this fourth main challenge for me, so like the third one, I believe it was called Playground. The fourth one, this one's called Peak. The lesson I learned here is more on teamwork because we had a partner, like a buddy, and I really wanted to finish this challenge. Like we do, right? We want to finish what we start. The biggest lesson I got here was to not abandon my teammate at the expense of not being able to finish, to make it to the top, right? So that was a huge lesson for me. And then also, I went through challenges. I think one of my backpack or my things got lost, but um, it was recovered later on in the medic room. So trust, having a team, I love that. Next best lesson. So this process is called the beauty I see in you. So what did I get out of this? What is the lesson? I'll give some quick examples. The beauty I see in you. So when I look at you, it could be a stranger, right? You say all of the good or the beauty that you just feel in that moment with that other person. So some answers here are a smile that can light up the room, caring, helping the team, make a good husband, confident on the outside, soft on the inside, gentleman na bastos, handsome. I don't know if these are what people told me, like what I wrote down, but imagine, right? You say just whatever you feel, the beauty that you see in that person, and then you just speak it to that person. So the next part of this process was the beauty I see in me. My lesson here was it was harder for me to do this. It was harder for me to write down or say things when I looked at myself. So I think what I wrote here was the openness to share my learnings, which is 4 years ago, right? I'm doing it right now still. The extended patience, even at the darkest moments. Again, we're like over 2 hours and we're almost done, guys. So extended patience, even at the darkest moments. And then the last is sincerity in your eyes. So there, I mean, the beauty I see in me. Really powerful process because a lot of people or a lot of us, we forget or we don't see the beauty in us. Sometimes we feel like we're a monster, we're fucked up, and I could definitely relate to that. So, next best lesson. I just picked this up. So they give you this card when you take Enlightened Warrior. So next best lesson. Let's blitz through this. Almost there. So what happens after you complete Enlightened Warrior Training Camp? So I love this lesson. What happens is in life, our life looks like this. There are ups and downs. It's like a wave. It's not a straight line progression going up linear. So when we go through Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, what happens is if we were on like a wave, like on this level before, should I go this way? Sorry, this way. So that way, from here, after going through Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, we go on this level now, on a higher like wave or vibration. Still the ups and downs in life, but on like on a higher level, like from down here to here. So you will be or live life at a higher vibration. And one thing I wrote here is I commit to be kinder to myself, and I commit to giving myself space to allow my life to go up and down because I am an enlightened warrior. So it helped me understand that even though there are downs or dips in life, it's part of being an enlightened warrior. And then when I have moments where life goes up, right? I'm growing, I'm leveling up, to appreciate it, to know how to receive it and bring it back home, right? To appreciate it. Next best lesson. So I mentioned there were 4 big challenges or games that you go through. So Predicament, Sifu, Aaron Huey, Purification, Luis Emiliano Pingaron, Playground. So Eric Ring, this American, so he was the one who facilitated that. So I mentioned Hector, and then he always went first. I went second. 4th one was called Peaks, Sasha Godel. So in those 4 games or challenges, the lesson is all the games reflect our life and how we do things. And I love that. So for example, if I abandoned my teammate on the last one in Peaks, I really feel like it's awareness or reflection. Hey, where am I doing that in my life back home, right? Where am I doing that with myself? If I can go 100% here, it is so much easier to actually test that or do it again in the real world. Because we got to practice. We have proof. We have proof positive of it. So next best lesson that I learned here. So this, we're almost done. This one is a bonus lesson. I got this from one of the participants, and I learned this from her. And it was this lesson on carrying your cross. Now, again, not that religious. I did grow up, here in the Philippines, like Catholic upbringing, religion, and all. But then this helped me understand it on a different level, right? Not preachy or anything. So, what does carrying your cross mean? Because it's easier to think negative. Like 95% of people think negative, including me. It's just, again, a reality, the way we're wired, science backed, like our brain is in survival. So it's wired for fear, for which helps us with protection and survival, like that. It's easier to think negative. So what does carrying your cross mean? It's whenever we think positive and we make that effort. Because it's not easy to think positive, right? It's easier for me to default and not do this live. But making the effort to share positive lessons, carrying my cross, right? So I love that. I love that lesson. So next best lesson, actually we're done. We are done. We did it. So woo! So we'll end it with this part. This is called Attitudes of a Warrior. So I'll just read this quick. I am a warrior. I act in spite of fear. I am willing to do whatever it takes. I do everything at 100%. I am willing to do what's hard. I act in spite of my mood. I am bigger than any obstacle. I succeed in spite of anything. And I never give up. So, people watching this live or the replay, I want you to comment down below, what is your favorite lesson of Enlightened Warrior Training Camp? What is the one you love the most? More importantly, what's the one that hit you in your heart to the core that you could practice, you could apply in your life and integrate? And maybe it helped you get unstuck or heal some part of your life. So type that in the comments down below. Thank you. I love you. And I will see you next time.